Proudly brought to you by Durban Tourism.
Welcome to Durban, KwaZulu-Natal, where the sun never sets. Welcome to our beautiful city, where you can do business and also have fun. We are going to be showcasing with our sites where our tourists can go and enjoy. I just want to welcome all people who are coming to this beautiful Indaba. We are expecting the business community. We are having people coming from the government internationally and nationally, and also NGOs and also local communities are going to be part of Indaba. Of course, they're going to be accredited. I'm very much excited because for me as a mayor in the city, that means that our economy is going to be booming on the side of our hotels. They're gonna be packed, and also we know that our small businesses are gonna be getting some incentives because they're gonna be selling around.
And I see that the theme for this year is building and positioning the city of Durban as a global destination. What do we mean by that?
That's why we've came where Dr. J.L. Dube was born, and also where President Nelson Mandela voted, because we want to show the world the richness of Durban, because we are here today to showcase what we have as a city. From here, we are having our other tourist destinations here in Durban and also in KwaZulu-Natal. That's why we are saying Durban is for business and also Durban is for fun. Remember, in Durban, it is always warm. Even in winter, you are warm in Durban. That's why we are saying to our visitors and tourists, they must also consider Durban whenever they want to come and do business, and also if they want to come for tourism.
And why do you think it's so important this year for the Indaba to position Durban more than just being, a place where you come for the warm weather, where you go to the warm beaches? But as you mentioned, we are here at a very rich cultural site in South African history, and we're going to be going a little bit later to the township economy. Why do you think it's so important to tell that side of the Durban story?
For me, on behalf of the city, we felt it's very much important to market our city more, because that will create more jobs. Because we are saying as a government, we need to empower our communities to understand the importance of being in the tourist industry, because we can create more jobs.
And then obviously the unfortunate incident with the floods here in Durban, a lot of concerns about whether this will impact the Indaba. Is it going to have an impact on the Indaba?
Not at all. Right now, Durban is conducting its business as usual, although we are faced with challenges. Firstly, I don't want to hide. We had these storms that happened. Nature, you cannot avoid it. But thanks to the NGOs and all those who came on board, and also our national and provincial government who came on board to our rescue. But we can rest assured the communities that all is in order.
Hi, good morning everybody from the warm city of Durban, where Africa's biggest travel and tourism show is taking place. I am Fifi Peters. We are actually here at the Durban ICC, the exhibition center, where thousands of sellers are here to showcase their products to the thousands of buyers that are looking to take Africa to the rest of the world. Of course, the nature of the conversation that we are going to have this morning is about business, the business of tourism. You will remember that the tourism sector is a very big and important sector to growing South Africa's economy. The president, during his State of the Nation address earlier this year, announcing that it was South Africa's target to increase the number of visitors coming to the country. Presently at around 10 million, the president is looking to attract 21 million visitors into South Africa by 2030. Now, the city of Durban and the province of KZN specifically is looking to play a very, very important role in ensuring that South Africa is able to meet this target. So this is what we're going to be talking about this morning, and I'd actually like to introduce you to my panelists who will be helping me navigate this very important conversation. Sitting next to me is Russell Curtis, who is the head of Invest Durban. I've also got Nompumelelo Mabuza, the General Manager and Stakeholder Relations there at Brand South Africa, and Craig Drysdale, who is the Head of Global Sales of Thomson Africa. Thanks so much for your time. I mean, so much energy in this room and quite an exciting Indaba to be at. It's my second year. But of course, the city of Durban is no stranger to the Indaba. It has been hosting it since practically forever. Talk to me about the economic benefits that certainly accrue to Durban as a result of hosting this major event, Russell.
Thanks, Fifi. Good to be here, and a warm welcome to half of South Africa in our wonderful city. We're very blessed in the city to be hosting Tourism Indaba again. This is nearly our third decade, so this is our 29th year of hosting Africa's largest travel event in our city. And it means a lot to us for a city of Durban. Mm-hmm. We've got nearly 1,200 exhibitors from not only across our province, but in fact across the whole of Southern Africa.
Sure.
1,200 exhibitors showing what they have to offer. Matching that on the other side, nearly 700 buyers and media representatives coming to explore what Southern Africa has to offer in our city of Durban. And that's translating into about 7,000 or 8,000 visitors coming through the Travel Indaba. And for us as a city, as I said, a great economic benefit with around 80 to 90 million rand benefit to the city.
No, for sure. I mean, I've seen at the exhibition stands of some of our neighboring countries, Mozambique, Angola, Zimbabwe, Rwanda, all here. And Craig, I want to speak with you specifically because, as Russell did say, Durban has been hosting the Indaba for close to, 30 years, 29 years if we want to be precise. You have been coming for a significant portion of those years. How has the Indaba transformed in the past 23 years that you have been attending?
Yeah, no, 23 years. No, absolutely. I think if I go back to the good old days when we started in Indaba, I started coming through since 1996. Absolutely. I mean, it's just grown year and year, and primarily that was very focused around the South Africa trade show. It really became an Africa trade show, and we've just seen it grow from strength to strength. So it's been fantastic for the last 23 years. And I always said, started an exhibition hall to ICC Durban, and is now the largest inbound trade show in Africa. So it has grown from leaps to bounds, and we're always very excited to be here.
All right, but obviously the focus being on brand Durban. And from a brand perspective, how is Durban received when you go and sell South Africa to the rest of the world?
Well, generally, the interesting thing is that, close to about 65% is an old stats actually, of South African population are found in your more urban areas, the cities and the metropolitans. It just shows the importance of cities in general. But specifically when you come to Durban, as Brand South Africa, we track what is called the Country Brand Index,
right,
which looks at perceptions around about 50, 60 cities around the world. And in South Africa, we particularly look at Durban, Cape Town and Johannesburg. And in the last report, it comes out every second year, but in the last report published in 2018, it showed that Durban had actually made a significant improvement in breaking barriers around perceptions. We're not, as South African cities, that well known and performing that well, but the improvements are key because it means our footprints or our voices are being heard a little bit more. And Durban is certainly doing that. And the way Durban promotes itself as part of the overall KwaZulu-Natal kingdom, that has actually been a great selling feature for building brand Durban.
So you say it's mainly strong marketing and communication strategies that has helped Durban sort of move up that index?
Definitely, but the key part of it, actually that's maybe even a bit more important, is how Durban has focused on building its infrastructure and improving life for its residents, because that's the key thing. If the residents and the local people are happy with the city and the city's growth and improvement, that's what sort of piques the interest of external visitors, whether it might be interested for business purposes or for tourism purposes.
Yeah, and of course, I mean, the discussion is about business. And Russell, just a number of projects have been announced that the city is currently working on, pipeline projects, but also previous projects that were announced at this time last year. Just give us a sense of the business goings on currently right now.
Well, I can confidently say that Durban's got more tower cranes on the go at present than we've had in the last 20 years. That's been recognized and supported through the likes of our National Treasury City Support Program, and international investors coming and taking a much closer look at the city of Durban. So we have one of Africa's largest hospitality groups, Soho Sun, completing a multi-billion rand upgrade of their existing products across our Durban beachfront. We as the municipality of Durban are in partnership with international investors in our Durban Point. And so we have invested ourselves about 350 million rand in an entirely new upgraded promenade extending from our Shaka Marine World. But this investment, this business growth goes beyond just the core CBD, where yes, we are focusing, as was said, on improving the residents' life. So our inner city urban regeneration is taking a much higher priority in our city, working with existing building owners and landowners. And that is bringing international investors from the UK, from Australia and a number of others to upgrade in our inner city, and then going north and going south as well.
And of course, what has driven the international traffic into Durban specifically was the launch around October last year of the latest direct flight coming from the UK now into Durban. I mean, perhaps, Craig, you can also touch on this after Russell does, about the impact that another direct flight coming into the city has had on tourism.
Indeed. So we're really blessed to have a growing number of international airlines recognizing Durban and KwaZulu-Natal as something of an undiscovered gem for some. And these airlines are seeing the business case for that. And that's how British Airways was the most recent major global player to enter our city. They are very happy with how their business is performing. And in fact, a number of the existing international airlines are adding additional flights and additional planes on. Where this is all coming from is King Shaka International Airport, which sits within our Durban Tradeport Special Economic Zone, has been recognized as the fastest growing airport in Southern Africa for the second year in a row.
Wow.
And that's both passenger volumes as well as freight volumes.
That's incredible. I mean, Craig, in terms of the direct flight, I mean, does it really make a difference being able to fly directly to a country? I mean, a lot of people sometimes are happy to do stopovers in countries that they haven't seen and then eventually get to Durban.
No.
What have your numbers shown?
No, absolutely. I think just as for Russ, I think direct flights are critical. You know, one thing as a tourist, you must remember, tourist, when you arrive in a country, you want to go on holiday immediately. You don't want to go via somewhere. So what we particularly found, all the direct flights, in particular now the recent British Airways, for the first time now, all of a sudden, operators around the world are now starting to build packages, started in Durban as opposed to all starting in Johannesburg and Cape Town. And for us, that's very encouraging because they've seen Durban as a starting point and not a middle point or an end point. So it's very encouraging. The direct flights is key
For sure.
to any tourism package or any activation that you put in around the world and that. And so, you know, as a tour operator, we're only happy. And of course, we'll encourage and push as much as we can the city, the airlines to have direct flights. But of course, our job is to make sure we fill them.
Yeah.
And so we're working very hard at that.
Yeah, I want to actually find out exactly how you're doing it, and especially as we are living in an economy and a global economy that is facing not the best of times. I mean, we have seen a number of forecasts coming out from the likes of the IMF, the World Bank, of a slowing in global growth. In South Africa, we know what our economy is looking like. The nice thing about the tourism sector is that it's one of those sectors that are a lot more resilient to the challenging economic times. It's still growing, but it's not growing fast enough, nearly fast enough to achieve this 21 million visitors that the president is envisaging for 2030. It is doable, but how do we ensure that it is achievable from a brand South Africa perspective? What is your experience?
Well, I don't think anyone can doubt the potential of the South African tourism sector. Every visitor that comes into the country is wowed by what the offering is. And like you said earlier, the challenge is not just mainly focused on South Africa, it is a global challenge in just a general slow in growth. But if you look at the presidential investment drive and the plan around attracting investment, whether it be tourism, infrastructure investments, or just attracting tourists generally, tourism remains a key sector and still a prioritized sector. There's a direct impact on tourists coming into the country and job creation. I recently found out a stat that 6 tourists have got the potential of creating 1 job. That's a major impact if we understand, especially in South African society, where 1 job supports a large family, at least a minimum of four individuals. So investment in the sector is key. We work quite closely with South African tourism and are looking at ways of promoting and still promoting the sector overall. But it's key to sort of have a coordinated element in that. And then I think cities like Durban and the different provinces have a very, very, very good relationship with an entity such as South African Tourism in ensuring that their voice is also heard and they work together. And platforms such as this,
for sure.
as Africa Travel Indaba, it's for the continent, but it also gives us as South Africans, as South African cities, a great opportunity to showcase what we have to offer.
I mean, Russell, as in your experience as Invest Durban, I mean, you go out there and you essentially have to do quite a lot of the selling of this beautiful city, of course, visiting beautiful parts of the world. But what's your experience and what's your conversations with people from outside of South Africa? What are they saying that could certainly improve the number of visitors that we're currently experiencing coming into this country?
Well, what we have to do is we, as the city of Durban, across both public sector and private sector, is we have to make a step change.
All right.
You know, we cannot keep doing the same things we've always done and expecting different results. So we are going out in partnership a lot more with business leadership. We as government entities and government partners, we have ramped up our strategies, ramped up our resources to try and come off of this platform that as the city of Durban, we started off, as many of our listeners and viewers today may remember, of taking Durban to the world. The next evolution of that was Discover Durban, because Durban was something of an undiscovered gem. And so now we're a bit more proudly saying this is Durban. And we're going out there and saying this is Durban, both as the public sector partners and the private sector partners, talking to whether it's the international airlines, the international tour operators, and the international tourism investors. And that's in fact this combination of together we can grow the economy is what we are doing. What we're getting feedback from the industry players is they're very happy to hear the voice of business. They're very happy to hear the voice of residents coming through a lot stronger, in addition to the standard promotion campaigns that we're doing. And this is in fact how we managed to land the likes of British Airways, and as was reconfirmed during the breakfast this morning, an international resort operator coming in to do a significant resort, which all things being equal, will open in 3 years. It was through that togetherness, that partnership between business leadership and government leadership, promoting the place of Durban.
Yeah, a world-class beach resort, I do understand. But Craig, you can add to this because, I mean, Thomson Africa, your headquarters are essentially here in the city of Durban.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So we've been around since 1978, based in Durban, very proudly Durban. And of course, you know, having an inbound, outbound operator, but mainly focus on our inbound tourism. So I guess we were a bit biased, you know, being based in Durban, one of the biggest operators in the country. Mm-hmm. And so, of course, we push and we embrace Durban. We love the infrastructure that's been spent in what the city of Durban is doing. We love the province. I think Durban, KwaZulu-Natal is a gem that not many international people know about. And it's really our job to go out there and to say, discover Durban, yeah, this is Durban. And I'm going to go back to it. I think that, you know, we've unlocked that first key, and that's the direct flights. Once those direct flights, people see it. I always say, you know, if you look at KwaZulu-Natal, Durban, I mean, we've got 2 World Heritage sites. Mountains, bush, safari, we have it all. Fantastic beaches and that. It is a great, great destination. And I think, as Russell just said, you know, this private and public partnership, working very closely together going forward, we'll see the results coming down the line. And so for us, as an operator and as a private operator, we can say very, very excited.
I mean, as an operator, just talk to us about some of the packages that you currently do sell for Durban, and also where the interest does come from.
The
interest in terms of, I mean,
yes.
Is it people from the UK, the USA?
Well, it's very much right across, but of course UK, USA is big. UK, USA, Australia is coming through. But all of a sudden, you must remember the world is moving, can now move a little bit more easily. So you have what you call your typical core markets. But all of a sudden, you've got Brazil. There's a big interest in Brazil, Netherlands, India, China coming through, a little bit in small numbers in that coming through. But there is a great interest in KwaZulu-Natal. People want to see things new. Fantastic doing Kruger National Park, Cape Town, but Durban, you know, to guys, people want to explore it. So multiple markets opening up, and of course the airlines, the multiple airlines coming through is now allowing that for guys to actually start their vacation in Durban and explore more of Durban.
All right, so that's the leisure part of it. But the business part of it, Nompumelelo, and particularly our business travelers. Craig mentioned the likes of India and China, which I believe are fast-growing tourism economies for South Africa. But we do know that it's a bit difficult for some of those individuals to get in the country because of the issue of visa regulations right now. But parking that issue of visa regulations for a moment, the business interest in visiting the city of Durban and in Brand SA's experience, I mean, what are the delegates saying that you visit there outside of this country?
You know, the one key thing that's always interesting is how tourism often converts those visitors into potential business partners for each area in each market. When we look at, as part of the work in understanding the performance of the nation brand, we look at we've got a study that's called Investor Perception Study, looking at 16 key markets. Their interests into South Africa, some of them are existing investors and others are potential investors, and assess what the barriers are to entry, what the positives are, and why they have an interest in South Africa. And this information is then packaged and shared back with policymakers. Take, for instance, in the past year, major strides have been made into looking at policy issues, policy constraints that are barriers to entry for investors. And the investors say the one-stop shop, for instance, that's a critical decision that government make to create a platform where investors can come in and access SARS in one room, Home Affairs in one center, looking at whatever the immigration issues or challenges that company may have as an investor, and trying to support them in addressing it in one space. And Durban has, or the province has, an Invest SA one-stop shop regional office here, but they are spreading nationally in each province. And that's an important way of South Africa just trying to ease the issues around doing business in South Africa, especially for investors. And that can only, and there's a lot of the policies that we have as a country, some of them are there in place to protect local industry, and it's important to understand that. But however, government has definitely recognized that some of the policies become constraints, and those are being looked into, and behind the scenes work is being done to try and see how that can be alleviated.
Yeah, I mean, talking about moving forward on policy, I do understand recently is that the e-visa was piloted in New Zealand, so their government really trying to improve the ease of entering South Africa. Russell, paint a bit more color on the one-stop shop here in Durban. I mean, Nompumelelo did speak about how the city of Durban has improved in terms of the tourism index and attracting visitors. Your one-stop shop, no doubt, has had a very important role in doing so. What are the latest happenings there, and how are you planning via the one-stop shop to improve the experience?
Well, Fifi, there's really two parts of this conversation for us as the city of Durban. It's our catalytic projects unit, and then our partnership in that national one-stop shop. So we are a core founding partner of that national initiative, which is the one-stop shop, and that's trying to improve the speed of all of the different approvals, whether it be visas or building plan approvals for a number of different investors. Added to that, as a metropolitan government, we've partnered with our national treasury and established a catalytic projects unit. And that catalytic projects unit, for those people who start out perhaps as leisure tourists and then move into business tourism, and I want to make a segue into this beautiful ICC where we are right now. We're extremely proud as eThekwini Metropolitan Municipality to continue to co-own and co-operate our International Convention Centre. For the last couple of decades, the most award-winning convention centre. So those business tourists then being converted into actual investors. Some of them just come for a residential property investment or a development. Some come in their corporate capacity. So this catalytic projects team is there to take the bigger projects and accelerate them through our regulatory processes and accelerate the bulk infrastructure connections that are going through them. And we're seeing this have quite an accelerated level of interest and warm response from investors from Malaysia, from South Korea, India, China. I can mention the individual names, but sure. I don't want to necessarily give free advertising to the companies.
Right.
But they are, can I say, more than pleasantly surprised as they step off the plane. They can't believe the quality of the airport. They can't believe the quality of the roads. They can't believe the quality of the telephony and the electronic banking systems. They can't believe the lifestyle that they have here. So we are really blessed with a number of endowments, both natural endowments and then man-made endowments, that are helping to convince more of those business investors who are then in turn telling their networks abroad.
For sure. And of course we are, I don't know if it's too much of a blessing, but we are in a current situation whereby we've got a foreign exchange rate that is quite helpful to bringing more tourists into the country, given that, I mean, against the major currencies, your dollar, your euro, were quite weak. Are you seeing that translate, though, in the level of interest from your dollar or your euro-denominated countries, the rand exchange rate?
Yeah, I mean, if I can just, I mean, of course, South Africa is a value destination. If you look at the rand versus those strong currencies, you know, your airline cost is relative, your accommodation to a degree, but of course when it comes to entertainment, food, entrance fees and that, it is a great value for destination, so people don't mind the long haul. So yes, of course the rand is volatile, moves up and down, but really on those particular currencies, a great value destination. And South Africa is perceived as this great value destination,
right,
and so much more. You know, going back to, you get so much bang for your buck.
Sure.
As they call it. You know, the Americans love saying that. And we really go out there. You know, when we go to the UK, we always tease the UK guys who say, in the UK you can buy one pint of beer, but in South Africa you can get 4 pints of beer, and that gets them very excited.
Yeah.
And, and that is our selling point. You know, people use the old McDonald's, we use the pint of beer. But it works, but the value destination is there.
Right. I mean, from a foreign perspective, but of course for us locals, the value perspective is a bit difficult for us. Many of our salaries haven't been keeping up with the level of inflation, which has made, things like tourism seen as a little bit of a luxury for locals right now, given the dire situation in the economy, as something that you don't do right now. Brand South Africa has an important role in ensuring that to some degree, local tourism or domestic tourism stays resilient, given the cyclicality of the foreign arrivals. What's your experience in that regard, Nompumelelo?
Just to correct, I mean, that's a South African tourism job, and they do it very well with their We Do Tourism campaign. And they've done a phenomenal job. But the reason it's important for Brand South Africa is that we've got an equally important mandate for us that looks at pride and patriotism. We put a lot of effort into trying to promote active citizenship, encourage South Africans to also equally buy in to the story that we're selling, just reminding them about the assets that we have as a country, whether it be our beautiful warm beaches in Durban or whatever else they may be, our culture, our rich culture and heritage. So we put a lot of efforts into doing that, and we do that in the form of dialogue and one-on-one engagement and direct interaction, but also through platforms that we can reach wider audiences, the youth, and we promote key strengths of the country, like our constitution. We do a campaign promoting the constitution. We are voting next week as a country, the importance around that. And all of that build into pride and patriotism. If I'm proud of my country, I'll be keen to explore it. I'll be curious, and there are a lot of, I've seen it personally, there are a lot of packages that are geared towards domestic tourists that, and not, we can't always afford everything all the time, but when the opportunity arises, it is accessible for the better part of the population.
I mean, you do highlight a very important point around Brand South Africa. What are people saying about Brand South Africa presently, and how, in your experience, has it changed in the last year or so when we have had a change in administration here?
Well, we track the profile and the positioning of the country over, maybe several years, and there are different dimensions that we look at. The competitiveness, how we perceive there, and the country's reputation, or whether it be media reputation. And there has been, I suppose, a shift, and a lot of it maybe might be linked to media interest, if you look at the media reputation. But then if you look at the numbers as well, go a little bit deeper, we still know that there's a lot of work to be done around the economy, because to attract business, a lot of business and investors look beyond the fluff and what's written in the media. They want to look at the numbers. They want to see what will my dollar do in that market. And that's what we prioritize and try and work with other partners on, to try and fix if it needs fixing. If not, just highlight and promote and make sure that there's an awareness around the opportunities that the country has to offer.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously, inclusive growth is the narrative, and the tourism sector is not exempt from that. I loved the fact that the opening night of the Indaba was in the township of Umhlanga there at Guamax. Great food, no free advertising, to Umlazi, yeah. But what role is Invest Durban playing in making sure that the township economy and township tourism doesn't get left behind?
Well, it's a theme that has been embraced by the entire eThekwini municipality across all of our different departments. And yes, it ties into that local tourism, but it also ties into, I think you were starting to allude to, civic pride.
Okay.
Where citizens take pride and joy in the assets that are outside their doorstep. So as part of promoting local tourism, civic pride and citizenship joy and enjoyment, and then it becomes an attractant for international tourism. We've been focusing for a number of years now around township tourism, around celebrating our cultural assets and our historic assets, whether that be across the European cultures, the Asian cultures, the Black African cultures, and celebrating those with asset upgrades in the different areas. So joining hands with partnership with business and others, and upgrading and investing in some of these tourism assets. In addition to that, the events, so that we can get more Durbanites and more KwaZulu-Natal partners to come out to a number of different events. So we don't really ever have a dead period in Durban. The weather's great all year round.
No, that's so the theme, Durban rocks. You guys host a multiple
Durban. You know, we've taken Durban to the world. People are discovering Durban. So now this is Durban. We want to have an increasing number of great events to encourage people to come out of their homes and celebrate, whether it be music, food, art, entertainment, culture, and to explore their city. I mean, a small example recently around what we've been doing to encourage is we've bought a couple of brand new double-decker buses.
I saw them and I can't wait to take a ride.
For more local tourists to come around. So yes, for us, local tourism, absolutely key. That's civic pride, and in turn that then attracts international tourists to come and discover what they may not have in their own areas.
Craig, promoting the township economy or visiting the townships. I mean, I went to Ohlanga High School there, a beautiful heritage and cultural site. As Thomson Africa, in packaging your deals, what are you guys doing by way of getting the tourists, you know, away from your urban areas, more into your rural and real South Africa?
Absolutely. I mean, most of our packages, I mean, not just in KwaZulu-Natal, but around the country, will always include township tour, cultural tours. You know, one thing you don't want to put the tourists is on the same old route. Tourists today want to see experiences. It's all about experiential tourism, and of course, as Russell said, it's about it's the local is lekker. What is local? What is this? So it's taking guys through. It's investing, and it's also it's putting this into the programs because international people want to be part and parcel of how South Africans live, or what is the perception. It's not just on these sanitized routes, tourism routes going forward. So it's very, very important. Also, what I want to add is, that I always say, tourism is not exclusive. It's not exclusive just to international tourists. So, of course, the whole, there's a lot of campaigns, the Shot Left campaigns, the local tourists getting South Africans.
You guys are a part of that.
Very, very much so. And there's an obligation, and not just to sell international, but also local, South Africans to travel and to see these beautiful hubs and these beautiful things putting forward from all types of tourism on offer around the country and that. And you're right, there's always a perception that tourism is only an international thing. But I think what's happened, I've seen, particularly in my 25 years in tourism, more and more in the last 3-4 years, South Africans are starting to move. They might not buy into programs, but they're starting to move more and more around the country, seeing a few things. In fact, the other day we found out that, July, you cannot get a book in a Kruger National Park, example, because it's all local tourists.
Oh, wow.
Not international, local tourists.
Why July specifically?
July,
why
school holidays.
Oh, right.
So
okay.
it's mainly school holidays. So all of a sudden, South Africa is starting to move and enjoying all these hubs and wonderful things that's on offer and that. And so we, from a tourist, we're very, very excited. It's both international and like I say, it's this pride of what we have, and we must celebrate it, and we must go and enjoy it.
No, that's fantastic. But staying with the tourism or the township economy, just what is there a perception of South Africa being too much of a high crime area, where if I go to the township, am I going to be safe? Are you being confronted by such questions when you go and market the country elsewhere?
No, definitely. That is a concern for whether it's be tourists or potential business investors. But it's relevant, I suppose, relevant questions to ask in any market that you go into. If you're concerned about your personal safety, you need to assess the situation and understand. And we often are happy to take that question on directly and look at what the issues are and the environment that they're going into. But as I said earlier, a lot of investors look at the bottom line. So if they're coming to invest, there's a potential for growth in this country. Am I going to make money? Then they look at also the periphery, the other elements that impact on that. And you often find, like, there's no way I would go to New York and not ask about taking the subway at midnight. As an individual that's open-minded, I need to understand what potential risks there may be in any country, in any environment, around my personal safety. So it's our duty to educate as local citizens as well as international visitors on what they need to do to understand and be on the lookout and protect themselves when they need to, if they need to find themselves in that situation. So it's not a question that we can shy away from. It's a key concern, but investors or visitors will have a lot of other concerns on their list, and that's what determines their decision to go into a city or an area.
All right, you want to add in there?
Yeah, Fifi, I just wanted to say, so as a city of Durban, what we've been doing to address two sides of the coin, whether it's potential risks from people who are just trying to get some money, there's really an economic aspect or an economic driver to that. So as the city of Durban, we've put together great partnerships with community tourism initiatives. And we now have 4 or 5 formalized CTOs, community tourism offices and community tourism initiatives in a number of the township areas and others. Because for us, yes, it's about addressing any potential risks, but also about showcasing what's there. So through these community tourism initiatives, you're starting to get people who live in those areas taking ownership for those areas. In addition to that, bringing in SMMEs and a number of smaller black businesses to handle the transport, to handle some of the food and retail opportunities, some of the walking tours and so on. So as we build the economic legs and the community ownership or the community pride in these community tourism initiatives, so the risk levels go down, so the enjoyment levels go up, and so everyone is benefiting, everyone is looking out for each other, and we're finding these things enormously successful.
Sure. Another big theme in your sector right now is responsible tourism, and it's because of what we're seeing, the devastating effects around climate change. In fact, I was speaking with the Minister of Tourism and echoing the same sentiments, really, that, responsible tourism needs to be a very, very key driver going forward here. Russell, responsible tourism and the role that the City of Durban is playing in that regard.
The City of Durban has always been a very environmentally conscious city. The current buzzword are these SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And so I'm proud to say that the City of Durban has been very active both on the environmental management, environmental protection, climate protection front, and have built a number of the now known SDGs into the likes of our permit system. So in your building and construction, through to the land development plans, where you can place certain buildings for that sustainability, how they're constructed in terms of runoff of stormwater and so on. So for many decades now, the City of Durban has been very, not only active in that sustainability space, but applying it through the mechanisms and structures and partnerships that we have got. And so really for us, it's a continuation of what we've been doing for a long time.
Right. Okay.
It's great to see in the tourism industry a number of the hotel groups maybe embracing it really, I think, from commercial terms as well as the feel-good factor. Because water, we're a water-scarce country. Air, we want to keep it clean. So yes, they're embracing it because it's a feel-good factor, but they're also embracing it because they're starting to see the commercial benefits in it.
Yeah, for sure. And Craig, add in there?
Yeah, now just to add from that, absolutely. As a tour operator, we always say, what we take out of tourism, we've got to put back. And so, what Russell just touches on, initiatives in there. And, this is very much driven by the consumer. I mean, yes, of course, we've got to do the right thing. But a lot of international tourists are saying, hold on, what are you doing as an operator, as a country with regards to, we look at 3 pillars, people, communities, wildlife, and and animals. And so, of course, as Thompson's Africa and many other operators involved in a lot of initiatives, literally what we're taking out, we're putting back in there. And the commercial value is there. I mean, you've got some real, and I use the word green conscious, I wouldn't say states, but countries out there who say, we'll use a country if you're green and your sustainability is good. In fact, we want to know that our package that we buy in, $5, $10, $15 is going back into a project, into communities, people, animals, environments. For them, it's a good holiday because they want to be on holiday, but they feel that some of their money they put in has actually been regenerated back into our planet or our piece of Africa, what do you want to call it. And people feel good about that because, as you said, it's that feel-good thing. And I think it's a global responsibility in every business, not just tourism, but I think any business across the planet, or particularly in South Africa, that has a responsibility to what we take out, we put back in, and to be responsible.
Yeah, no, for sure. Nombo Malelo, you mentioned the president's investment drive a little earlier, and I'm quite interested in finding out your experience of how brand South Africa, right, stacks up against the rest of the African countries, because our neighbors are here in this exhibition center and everyone is looking to attract as many people into their countries. How do we fare compared to our neighbors?
Well, if you look at a nation brand is assessed generally on a couple of different pillars. It could be people, its culture and tourism. It includes their sporting prowess. It looks at also trade and their exports. And South Africa does fairly well on the continent if we don't top the rankings. But our focus has never really been to necessarily compete with Africa. We try and understand and see where and in which areas we need to grow as a country. We still have the it's at some point maybe we thought it was a negative, but it's not such a negative anymore. The brand Africa perception that Africa is one country, and there are many ways to sort of take advantage of that. But also we put a lot of effort into dispelling that that's incorrect factors. Some people look at it as but we've worked in the past, for instance, with brand Kenya. As they were establishing their nation brand management agency, we are interacting now with Swaziland, who's looking into setting up also a nation brand management agency. Brand Botswana we work quite closely with. It's important for us to understand what other African countries are doing. It's important for us to try and have some element of a cohesive approach, or just a fair understanding of the work that we're doing as a continent, and sort of dispel that brand Africa myth, but what promoting the continent as a whole. When the rest of our neighboring countries benefit, we know for a fact that it benefits South Africa too.
No, for sure, and especially now as the conversation is about a more integrated Africa with this free trade deal in full swing of implementation stage. Ultimately, more visitors coming into Durban, it has a positive spillover effect for the rest of the continent. Russell?
Yeah, no, make no mistake. We it makes me think when we hosted the 2010 FIFA World Cup, we all overtly said as host cities, and I was involved at the time, that this wasn't just ours. This was now a celebration of the whole African continent and the partnership across our neighboring countries and others, so that we can share the benefits. I think it harks back for me to Ubuntu.
Sure.
And that Ubuntu cuts across cultures. Whilst it is predominantly coming from the black African culture, I am because you are because I am. And my success is your success, because we cannot have what I call islands of prosperity surrounded by seas of poverty. We do need to have this community of courage effect. But Fifi, if I can go back to your other question just for a moment, how are we doing as South Africa? I'm quite excited. You see our president wearing the flag often, and you see ordinary patriots wearing the flag. Many of the viewers may not know that there's a great reason behind that. Our flag, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is one of the top 3 to 5 most recognized flags on the planet. So I think as a nation, as a brand, as a people, in our diversity of colors, I think we're doing quite well, domestically and internationally. And then we bring that back into this is Durban. This is Durban. We're one of the most award-winning cities on the continent. We are unique positioning of having a great lifestyle of business and pleasure together in one place. one of the largest human resource pools in KZN, high economic growth rates, great infrastructure, our tourism assets, and that's all translating into a very sustainable, substantial business base.
Wow, I mean, we've got a lot to pat ourselves on the back for. Our flag is in the top 3. Apparently, our accent is the second sexiest in the world, as we learned this morning. But you know, as we really wrap up this conversation and we move forward as to how to ensure that the city of Durban certainly benefits more from the tourism dividend coming into South Africa. I mean, Craig, in your experience as a tourism operator, how does the city of Durban do more?
I think it's what we've always done. It's partnerships. It's talking more. It's understanding the initiatives, what the city of Durban is doing. And, you know, we're very fortunate. We engage with our tourism authorities with Durban on many forums, through associations and that. But I think it's about partnership, and it's embracing the good work that the city of Durban is doing. And as private sector, getting out there and celebrating that, and pushing those the new initiatives and ideas that go forward. And, you know, Rome wasn't built in a day.
Yeah.
You know, and so yes, Durban's been around for a long time, but all the new stuff coming through, and we'll push at it and be, you know, proud of it and take it from there. But I think the key, to answer your thing, is really partnerships, communication, and then collaboration. If you don't collaborate in anything you go through, and I think there's a great collaboration, particularly in the city of Durban, amongst operators, 2 operators I can speak for in the city of Durban. You know, I know personally been involved in many forums. The door's always open. We always, you know, there's conversation all the time of what we can do. Because as Durbanites, we're very passionate about our city, our province. We're aggressively passionate about it. And so I go out around the world, and yes, of course, I've got to sell the Table Mountains and the Kruger National Parks, but my first pitch is always Durban. I always sell Durban first in my scripts, and then the rest. Yeah. So it's Durban and then the rest.
Yeah, I mean that partnership and collaboration. Russell, you are working currently with a number of private sector individuals. As you said, we shouldn't mention any names. Let's not give them free advertising. But I imagine that the increased number of partnerships, particularly with the private sector, has been as a result of you addressing some of their concerns to doing business. But certainly there's always room for improvement in anything. So just talk to me about where you guys are in making the ease of doing business and investing in Durban's tourism sector a little bit better.
One of the areas where we are working is, again, through our National Treasury City Support Program.
All right.
There is a sub-national cost of doing business program, a sub-national ease of doing business program that's been underway for about 3 years now, measuring a number of key metrics for either new businesses coming in and being set up or existing ones that want to expand. When it first started 3 years ago in the rankings, Durban was in about 4th or 5th place. I'm happy to say the most recent rankings, we've rocketed up to 2nd best in South Africa. So we are quite programmatically addressing some of those ease of doing business and cost of doing business aspects in the city of Durban. That's then starting to translate into companies making significant investment decisions, which will in turn add to that tourism asset base. So a partnership with a multinational shipping line and local black economic empowerment partners will see our new Durban cruise terminal completely revamped. And that cruise terminal and cruise line tourism, not only is that for international tourism, but again, that's another aspect where local tourists can go and enjoy more of that cruise terminal benefits. We've been, as the metropolitan municipality, investing quite heavily in our transport infrastructure. Our Go Durban program, as we brand it, opening up our new corridor, we call it our C3 corridor, linking our outer west and inner west suburbs of Pinetown and so on, through to some of our northern suburbs. That's opening up with 9 different investment nodes on it. A lot of community investment taking place, literally billions unlocking. So as we make it easier to do business, as we unlock these platforms of opportunity, so it in turn is attracting private sector investment, and then we as the metropolitan government and provincial partners are co-investing in some of those infrastructure elements.
Right, and from a brand SA perspective, I mean, what are some of the questions or concerns investors are raising, and then how are you answering them?
It would depend. I mean, there are various type of questions that we would get, and some of them might be sector specific or project specific. But
let's do it sector specific to the tourism sector.
Well, for the tourism sector, maybe let's look maybe tourism infrastructure.
All right.
Infrastructure development and some of the elements that Russell cited right now actually excited me. I was almost typing down notes because it's content that we're looking for. And the fact that cities are making great strides just to ensure that on a city level, they look at the barriers for entry into doing business and to see how they can support an investor. Getting building permits, putting up a construction site, putting up whether it's a new hotel or anything else, is daunting for us South Africans. But if you are based elsewhere and you have to also jump the hurdles of South African red tape. You find red tape in a lot of other countries as well. And then when you find a platform where that city or that province is willing to assist you, it makes a big difference. So there are challenges that we see. There are questions raised around permits, the time frame that it takes to even register a business in South Africa. That's something that we are consistently trying to address as a country overall. And those things, the DTI and the CIPC are putting a lot of effort to try and remove the backlogs and ensure that that runs smoother. It shouldn't be as complex to do certain things in South Africa, and we're aware of that. And then we're just trying to chip away at the policy barriers that make that a constraint for businesses entering into the markets.
Of course, I mean, another very important area when we talk about inclusivity in any sector of the economy is the role of young people right now, and also the role of women. Are you guys seeing anything in that regard? I know that the city of Durban and the KZN province has been quite pioneers of a female empowerment across the board. But what are you seeing?
Those are unquestionably key focus areas, again, not just exclusive to tourism, but across the whole city. We have this youth dividend.
Yeah.
It is one of the benefits that we have in our city and in our country. And so from our economic cluster, we've got a range of different initiatives where we actively provide platforms to recognize musical talent, art talent, even down to cooking talent. So through our Durban Business Fair, which has become one of the largest business fairs in the country, also been running 20 years, I think we've been celebrating our Durban Business Fair. That's one of the main areas where we're showcasing youth talent, women, and a number of the other groups that need to be fanned into flame or need to be harnessed. Yeah. We recently launched, in fact this week, a great township bakery, which was a group of young women who came through that business support unit in Durban Business Fair, and they just had a passion for doing it. And if you have a passion for something and you just keep persevering at it, that's when the doors open for you. And we were very pleased to see our mayor and other leadership celebrating a youth women township bakery.
Yeah, sure.
Yes, it's a commercial opportunity, but it's also become something of a tourism element, even for the locals in the area.
I mean, young people, I know quite a number of hotel chains. I have quite a number of internships to really absorb the number of young people. You said it's a strength of ours, but of course we also know that the level of unemployment amongst the youth is also quite a challenge. From a hotel, I mean a tourism operator's perspective, I mean what kind of opportunities are there for young people to play a greater role in the tourism sector?
Yeah, there's a big role. So, from a tourism operator, so we embrace the young youth coming through. So once again, we engage with a lot of the universities or the education institutions, the guys that are doing sort of diplomas or degrees in tourism. There's an element in all tourism diplomas or degrees the guys are doing in this sort of this second or third year where they could have internship. So we take a lot of guys internship, bring the guys in, depending where they want to go on the retail side or wholesale side, and we'll bring them into the business and a 6 month or 1 year. And it's fantastic because what they get to do, they get to see exactly how operations work and that. But the big thing from that is also it's also a source of employment, because you get to see some good talent coming through. So we just did a thing now of 25 internships, and of the 25 internships, we employ 75% across our brands. So yes, the point is, is engaged in these institutions that are pushing the youth coming through. And it's taken the youth into our businesses and, of course, employ. And once again, it becomes a responsibility to ensure that not only are we selling things, but also we have a responsibility of creating jobs. And I think we said this morning, for every 6 tourists creates 1 job. So the more the tourists increase, the more jobs increase, and more the youth that come through. And just to go back on the women, to celebrate women, Thompson's Africa was started by women. Linda
right.
Pampala's 40 years ago. So we always laugh about that, and still very much is guided by Linda. So very much tourism is a very woman-driven, and I think the guys, we in the background working. So.
I mean, just as we wrap up the conversation, for those who are watching us on their screens and wondering, okay, this Africa Travel Tourism Indaba, why should I be here? What are the benefits that could accrue to me? What would your messaging be to them?
Well, from our perspective, from Brand South Africa's perspective, it's my first year, by the way.
Right.
I've always been shipping people off to go to Durban and go do it. I see Russell all the time, but not necessarily for the Africa Travel Indaba, and I find it absolutely amazing. Our sector is not quite specifically tourism, but we look at the country holistically, and this is an important element of it. I've just walked part of some of the corridors, engaged with some of the exhibitors, and there's an amazing, besides the vibe and the feel of it, there's an amazing keenness to actually do business, to actually close certain deals, to make certain plans, and you get the sense of that. So for people and companies in this space, I think actually it is definitely the platform to be at. I mean, there are individuals from across the Atlantic that are here, not just from the African perspective. So you get to actually really meet directly the people that you can plan your business partnerships with for the next 5 years potentially.
Yeah, for
so
sure.
This is the place that you can start.
For sure. Russell, I mean, why choose Africa's Travel Indaba in Durban as opposed to other countries elsewhere?
Yeah. Because this is a place of sparks, Kwezela, a space of a little bit of smoke and flame coming.
Right.
This is a great place for people to come, yes, to discover a part of Durban, but more than that, to come into one beautiful convention center and exhibition center and start to discover the whole of Africa in one place. Yes, that will then start to spark your excitement to travel, which is great, but it also will spark your enthusiasm around entrepreneurship, around business, around careers, around a second or third business, because tourism is very entrepreneurial by nature. So you can start small, but you can get started. And so this is the place, yes, to see your city, to see your continent, but get out there and start to see the world and enjoy the world and translate that into what does it mean for me personally? How can I help my family? How can I help my community? How can I spark something into flame by getting the ideas and meeting the people here? We really can no longer, as a nation, sit back and wait for something to come to us.
No, for sure.
We need to take responsibility for our own lives and our own families and get up, get out there, and this is one of the places to see and connect.
For sure, definitely. And I can see you nodding there, Craig. You agree?
Concur. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, once again, I say tourism is not exclusive. It's open. There's so much benefit that adds. It's not just, a tour operator or a wheel operator or a thing. There's second, third. There's so much you can add into tourism, and people can be really, entrepreneurship can come out of that to go forward. Besides our wonderful accents, people want to do business, people want to come here, and people want to sell this wonderful continent, our city of Durban, and that. So all very exciting.
They're very encouraging, and of course, I mean, it's about capitalizing on the opportunity of Durban and the continent as a whole being a beautiful place, rich in culture, rich in heritage, with great weather. One of the areas in which we can certainly do this is by improving the policy environment and making it a lot easier for business and investors to partake here. Everything else we have. Ladies and gents, viewers there at home watching us from the entire continent, we're going to leave it with you now. As you can see, there's a lot more activity happening here at this exhibition center, so we are going to get to that, but do stay tuned to CNBC Africa, because we'll be bringing you all the latest happenings from Africa's Travel and Tourism Indaba. From myself, Fifi Peters, and of course from my panelists here at the Durban ICC, it is bye for now.